everybody, and welcome to the Dead Unicorn. My name is Corey. I'm here with Tarek, and we are going to do a live review of the Legend of Five Ring supplement, Courts of Stone. It is a beefy book all about... It's supposed to be all about courtiers. and the Crane clan. Court. Yes. Mm-hmm. And we'll be talking about its ups and downs, what you can expect in the book, all of those things. It is the winner of our poll, right? So we did a poll asking you what supplement you wanted us to do next. On the poll, there was like the Mantis Clan, which is like 10 pages. I was gonna if that won, we were also gonna do the GM book with the tortoise in it too.
Oh really?
Yeah.
That's a really good book though.
So we're going to do if you want to be involved, check our community page. After this book, though, there's not a lot of books left. There is the really beefy Emerald Empire and Path of Waves, which will take us quite a while for us to get through if we're going to do those.
I mean, there's Fields of Victory too, right?
And, yes, Fields of Victories and the Mantis Clan. So we just might do those without a poll. We just might do...
Yeah, we just work through them.
We'll just work through them. That's right.
Unless there's something that y'all really, really want to hear about, then, I mean, feel free to give us a heads up, but we may not need a poll for that.
Okay.
Just join the Discord and tell us what you like.
Let's get into this because there's a lot to cover. This table of contents is deceptively small. Is there somewhere you would like to start, Tarek?
I mean, I think the castles is a pretty good place to start. I'm not gonna lie. The introduction is nice. The book opens like most of these books with a nice story. What did you think about the story?
Every time you guys have told me about the story, or every time I've started with the story, you and Sasha have been like, "We don't read the story." But
Sasha said that. I read the story.
You do read the story?
All of these little opening stories, yeah.
Okay. I read this story first about 2 weeks ago, and I kind of forgot it.
It's exactly what you think it is. It's a nice introduction to the courtliness in Rokugan and the like violence behind that implication. That there's danger even in the courts, and it also introduces the Shiga family, right? The Deer clan as well.
So we're gonna go to Imperial strongholds and castles in Rokugan. This is just a primer of what you can find in a castle in Rokugan, a kind of East Asian castles that are found in mostly Japan, but also Korea and China. They take a lot of inspirations from all of these types of castles.
Yeah, it gives you a foundation for understanding how to like create your own, if that's what you want to do. If you don't want to use any of the already kind of described ones, or if there is one in the lore that hasn't really been well fleshed out and described, then these are tools that you can use to like make that for you.
Not only the rooms that you might find in a castle and the defenses that you might find in a castle, but also the people who lives there, what are their jobs, what are their functions, all of those types of things are super important.
And it helps to define what the castle's function is, right? Like that. Yes. That also informs like, what is this castle here for? Is it here for politics reasons? Is it here for military fortress reasons, like a strategic location, that kind of stuff? It'll help to flesh out the kind of place you're trying to build and what its impact is.
So on page 15, there's one sidebar that I want to point out, the unlucky numbers. And basically, like, in America, you might find buildings without a 13th floor. And Rokugan has hang-ups too.
Yeah.
And it shows you what those hang-ups are and why you might not find a room 3,
a room 4. Yeah, room 4
or
and
room
a room
4.
9,
Yeah, that's right. A room 4 and a room 9.
Nissan Chi. Yeah. And Ku. And then also, I liked the little sidebar, or was it? The intentional flaws sidebar on
page
page 12.
That's earlier. Uh, nope, I passed it. Intentional flaws on page 12. Yes.
Yeah. It goes to show the like counterintuitive ways that they would build some of the defenses in order to like throw off strategists who would try to like seize the castle, and that plays back into like older stories that you hear about like the Dakota war colleges or the Kuni or the Kaiju and the Hida war colleges, talking about how you would siege certain castles and why it's like a struggle to do this and why that's like an exercise in Rokugan. We're trying to play like one of those more military campaigns. There's still something interesting in the book for you in that sense.
It feels a little like Yu-Gi-Oh, where it's like,
yeah,
I've seen a hole in your strategy and I'm going straight for it. You've activated my trap. I intentionally left this hole for you to blunder into.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, that's what an intentional flaw is.
Throw pots of hot oil onto you. Yeah, exactly. It's awesome. My pot of greed activates now. But, yeah.
Exactly.
I didn't get into Yu-Gi-Oh real big, but I know a couple keywords.
You use Pot of Greed entirely wrong. It's not a trap card. It's a magic card. Can't do that.
Yeah, just let you draw a card. Whatever. It's an opportunity, right?
Sure, just do. That's what it. That's. I mean, we don't play the card game. We just watch the anime, and they're just like exactly. Anything can happen at any time. Who cares?
Anything goes. Yeah, a pot of gold can rob a child and run away, and then you got to deal with that for the next, season and a half.
I summon molesting imp.
Oh God, no. Yeah.
Okay.
It gives you the same again.
It gives you a bunch of castles that are samples here, but actually kind of exist too. So if you want someone to visit Hida Palace, they will have a overview of what to expect when going to that castle.
True. I like a lot of the sample castles. A lot of the sample castles are really interesting. They give a really detailed image in a lot of them, where you have like a really beautiful layout. Not in all of them, but in a lot of them, they have these like really beautifully illustrated layouts for the entire castle and like the surrounding city. The imagery in a lot of these books is fantastic. I mean, the artistry that goes into it is, be commended.
So, what was I going to say? They do have a difference between what is a Kyuden castle and what is a Shiro castle.
Shiro, yeah.
And Shiros are castles that the emperor doesn't visit, and Kyudens are castles that the emperor goes and has winter court at. And apparently that's the difference.
Willing to have winter court at.
Yeah, yep. Yeah. But also, like, sometimes he'll just say, well, that's also a Kyuden because I want it to be. It's just, whatever the emperor feels.
However he's feeling on that particular day, he'll make a decision. Yeah.
Sure.
He's doing the thing.
So let's talk about the Crane Clan, because the Crane Clan is next on our list.
Well, the Crane Clan is also like the majority of the castles are Crane castles, so the ones that they describe.
Actually, no, they're all from different. Kyuden Asako, Kyuden Shika, Sevenfold Palace.
Yeah, but Sevenfold Palace, Kyuden, Shiro Kandai,
Shiro Kitsuki,
Kyuden Doji. I think 3 out of the total, and then each one else gets like one apiece.
But there's a good deal of castles described here. It's pretty neat.
There is, and some really interesting castles too. Like Kyuden Asako, they held winter court. They used to have a winter court campaign setting there. Kyuden Asako, back in the older editions. Shiro Kitsuki, interesting. They go into a little bit of the details about the Kitsuki method and like their ideologies in that section. It was really interesting, I think.
Kyuden Doji, of course, is the setting. It's the setting for the adventure that goes with this book, which is Winter's Embrace. Winter's Embrace. That's right. Winter's Embrace, which we didn't particularly enjoy.
It felt more like just a series of plot hooks that were completely disconnected, that you had to like
a series of events that may or may not combine.
And may or may not even be interesting to any of your PCs. So fill in the gaps with all the stuff that your PCs actually want to do, and then throw away the adventure because it's not helpful.
And then
You just run the thing that
the
you ran that you
goals
wanted to
the
do.
goals for every clan was get money, and only one clan had money to give. It was a train wreck.
Screwed. Yeah, they make it really difficult to make that run effectively without a lot of extra effort from the GM. So, like, if you're gonna run that adventure, cool. If you need it as like a baseline of how to run a winter court, like as like an instruction manual of how, like, options that you have, then that might be really useful for you. But you're most likely going to need to fill that in with all of the details yourself that make it applicable to your players, to the clans that are involved with your players and what have you, the background of whatever game. Like, it's a good insert if you like need to pad out your campaign, or if you want to run a winter court and you've never done it before, maybe this will help you to inform how you run it. But anyway, back to this book.
Crane Clan. So the story of the Crane Clan is a naked lady washes up on a beach. Everybody wants the naked lady.
Titties out.
Everybody wants her. And because she's so lovely and gracious, she finds a way to peacefully resolve the situation, and she is actually a kami, and everybody swears fealty to her and becomes part of the Crane Clan.
If you are a woman who has a goddess's body, I think you could probably pull this off as well. I don't think you have to be divine in order to show up on a beach naked and get a bunch of people to swear fealty to you. I think that would just work in the real world.
It does go through. Okay, so there is for us how we like to call canon. We like to call the previous canon black canon because the covers of the book were black, and this canon red canon because the covers of the book are red. Don't at me with, well, in this edition, this book. No, I don't care. Go.
Yeah.
On the wiki, it's called the LCG canon. No, I don't care. That's clunky. Black canon, red canon. Let's go. So in black canon to red canon, not a lot has changed.
Not a terrible amount. No. In fact, it feels like they just rolled back the era and then started going again.
There are some. I believe the clan champion is different, but that's not even explained in this book who the clan champion is.
Oh, the Crane Clan champion? I think they're the same, isn't it? Isn't it Doji Hattori?
Hattori? But that's a guy. Hattori is a guy. It's Doji Hatoru she's a woman.
Hatoru, yeah.
So it's basically they gender swapped her.
Yeah. And she's having a sexy affair with the Scorpion Clan champion, which is really interesting.
She's not the Scorpion Clan champion.
Well, okay, the Scorpion Provocateur. Well, her brother is the clan champion, yeah.
But so did Doji Hattori.
And Yojiro. They took a different take on Yojiro, too. Baishi Yojiro. Yeah. We'll get into Scorpion stuff later, but yeah, that's awesome.
We'll get into that. Okay, so they retell the stories of how the Crane got their white hair. And
it's the same, basically.
Yeah, the Crane twins. Like, if you don't know, basically, one of the Doji went into the Shadowlands to try and find one of the Kami Doji's children. Didn't find her, but came back with white hair and untainted and their sword. Horror.
Yeah.
And now everybody's like, we're gonna paint our hair white to honor this incredible hero of ours. And that's basically it. So let's talk about the different families and what they do. The Doji family is from the Doji. They're courtiers. Yeah. They like to make peace and friends with everybody.
They're the kind of business person who's like, everybody wins in this deal. They're trying to make as many deals as possible to get as many like favors and people indebted to them as possible. But they also, unlike the Scorpion, who I think would like do the same thing, but take advantage of all of those opportunities and like would totally screw people over in those dealings. The Doji are more about like, let's make sure everybody wins, because as long as you're happy with me, you'll probably keep coming back and making deals with me and extending, like, good word of mouth will spread and I'll get more people in.
Family Mons, not here. They have a little description of it, but no art.
No art for it, which is, well, they have some art for the clan, but that's it.
Um. So yeah, the doji are they're like the standards of what is polite, what isn't polite, what is culture, what isn't culture. You know, they get
Yeah.
to be the
What's
trendsetters.
fashionable? Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and where is there a sidebar? There was a sidebar about somebody who wrote like, "Hey, because Lady Doji said what is culture and what's not culture, we lost a lot of culture we had that a lot of people thought was apocryphal and threw out."
Yeah, that was. Let me find it. I remember seeing it just a minute
I
ago.
really liked that. I thought that was fun.
Yeah, culture. Damn it. It's
The Cost of Grace.
Is it the cost of
I
grace? I
think
thought it was up in the
53.
Kyuden Doju one. Okay,
Yeah, The
cost
Cost
of
of
grace.
Grace on page 53 is
Yeah, there you
a
go.
heretical treatise on Doji, Lady Doji, that said, hey, she kind of messed up by telling us what was good culture and bad culture, but
Yeah,
didn't say that we should keep all culture no matter what, or like praise it, so it all got thrown out in the garbage.
yeah. And we have lost so much of ourselves, which comes up, I think, and it would be like a really interesting point to like bring up in favor of those people who are like Kolak conspiracy or the Perfect Land sect, and why they want to bring culture unattached to the kami back into the main fold.
So
It's an interesting ideology.
the Kakita are both artisans that make swords and swordsmen that do Iijitsu dueling.
Yeah, they are artisans. Not only that make swords, they do all kinds of artistry. But they are also smiths, like renowned smiths, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they also do. Yeah, they're the duelists of the crane who are like masterful in dueling, like extraordinarily so. Rivaled only supposedly by the Miramoto. If you haven't, you know,
So they have a
looked into
rivalry
the
that's explained here where like the Kitas are like, if you have to use two blades, you've already lost because the second blade should be your soul.
yeah.
Yeah. Which is like, go, keep walking. I don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
Um,
One cut or one strike, one kill, right? That's
yeah.
the ideology
But the
of
Kakita himself made swords that are both the Crane Clan Celestial Sword and the Hantai's like Celestial Sword.
Yeah, that gets. Doesn't the Hantai Celestial Sword get corrupted
No,
and like
they're not in this
taken
canon.
away? Oh, not in this canon. Okay.
You're speaking.
Oh,
We're
that happened
talking
on the
about
Day of
black
Thunder.
canon. This is all red canon.
Okay, yeah. I thought they kept that though.
In fact, speaking of that, if we go down to the Asahina, I know I'm going to jump ahead a little.
Completely? I didn't remember seeing that. Did they change him being an Asawa Asahina?
It's Asahina. What? No. If you go down to the Asahina, you'll find a sidebar about Asahina Yajinden.
Oh, Yajinden, yeah.
And it says, we don't know what happened to him. No. What could go on? I don't know.
What could have happened?
Ooh, yeah. he made cursed swords and then disappeared one day. I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah.
In Black Canon, he is a immortal blood speaker.
Yeah, he was a devotee of Yuchiban who created the blood swords, infected the empire with them, and was holding on to his power to help release the Yuchiban one day.
But here he crafted swords that made people go crazy, and then he was like, well, I'm going to build an artifact that will undo all of the crazy. But before he did that, he disappeared, and now there are like crazy artifacts everywhere that you could find. They tried to scoop them all up and put them in a room, but you never know.
Yeah. Didn't they, in the old lore, they took they collected a lot of those and the Black Scrolls, and they threw them into a hidden city inside of Phoenix Lands. I don't think they kept that
in Black Canon. In this canon, Black Scrolls are, I don't know, wherever you want them to be.
Mm-hmm. Same thing with the blood swords, wherever they want them to be.
Yeah.
Wherever. And I think they did that specifically so that you can rewrite your lore however you want it.
I'm fine with that, actually. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea.
So the Daidoji are frontline soldiers, but there also can be like scouts. The Harriers can do underhanded things, but they don't say that they do underhanded things, and no one talks about how they do underhanded things, including to each other. So I don't know how they know they're supposed to do underhanded things.
Yeah, exactly, right? They're just all a wink and a nudge. They also talk about like the tactics that they use as being some of the best tactics, like modern guerrilla warfare tactics that are present in this empire, because they're really great at like doing harrying tactics and like, what is it called? What is the there's a name for the tactics. Julian tactic. What is it called?
I
Where you
don't
do
know.
the rolling retreats. There's a somebody in the comments
Oh yeah,
can
the
remind me.
the
But
Roman retreat. Yeah.
yeah, there's the Roman retreat tactic of like falling back and also always harrying your opponents to force them to come
Burning
fight you.
supplies as you leave, that kind of thing.
Exactly.
They like
Yeah,
doing that kind of stuff. Yeah.
that's exactly their mentality. And it's really interesting. They're like the Daidoji are actually one of the most interesting crane families in my opinion because of their role that they've taken and the fact that they're technically Kikita, right? They're the children of Kikita and Doji,
Yes.
who said we'll protect the family and took that subservient role and take on the cost of honor.
One
I
of
like that kind of feel to a family inside of a clan. The Koma are that for the lion, the Daidoji are that for the crane. Very interesting.
The man who came out of the Shadowlands with white hair, he was the first Daidoji.
He became the first Daidoji, yeah.
Yes. Asahina.
Yeah, I think if I'm not mistaken, they're still descendant of Asawa's Asahina, the elemental master of fire, who like burned a village of Crane, and they go into that a little bit in the starting point. And then yeah, the Asahina family are bound into peace. It's part of their kind of traditions is being pacifistic and trying to be unbothered and untainted by the blade. They're fascinating. I like the Asahina as a concept for the crane specifically. I think they fit really well.
If the gates are ever closed.
Yeah, if the gates, yeah, they're little prophecies. Yeah, the doom of the crane, right?
Yeah, yeah. I just want to point out throughout all of these crane families and stuff, a emphasis is put on excellence, is put on perfection, is put on following all of the rules, which makes playing the crane
really annoying.
Yeah, annoying. It can fill you with a little bit of anxiety because you never know what you're doing, or if you're not very well versed in the culture and the etiquette of Rokugan and you're playing a crane, you're gonna have a harder time with the game, especially if you're new. You're just gonna be stressed all the time, not knowing if you made a bad move, or you'll lose honor because you thought you did something right, but it wasn't perfectly, to the T, and that can cause a lot of stress. And here's the thing. Here's the thing. Like, as a game master, you're going to make a lot of allowances for people that didn't read all of the books and don't know all of these things. And even as a game master, you don't know all of the things or all of the books. And maybe you're confusing black canon and red canon. You don't know all the time.
Yeah, 100%.
And you're going to make certain amounts of allowances for people. And then that rules lawyer will appear. And they will take advantage of the fact that you're being very lax with all of that kind of, oh, we don't know, I don't know. So they'll be like, well, you told that person over there they could, and me over here, I'm not. And yeah, it can cause problems.
Yeah, it can quickly cause problems for everybody.
So,
and it's best to just like set a baseline understanding in the beginning of the game, I think, of like, if there's slips or something falls off the wayside, let's not litigate that during the session. Let's try to be courteous and comfortable and set a learning environment for everybody. Like we'll learn this as we go through it, and maybe
set a
even
learning
offer,
environment
like, here's
for
checks.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's make checks more important to like preface a faux pas. Like if you do a faux pas, let's do a check to say, your character's well versed enough in this to know not to make that faux pas. Give them the opportunity to take it back if they want to. If they want to leave it in, fine. Let's roll with punches.
Then it comes to the game master. Like, he's got a lot of pressure too playing I've got a lot of pressure. I am not good at talking in circles and being not direct and doing the Crane courtesy game. I'm just not. And I try really, really hard. But, you know, it falls flat a whole lot of times. And I know people who are much better at that. And especially if you're playing like in a huge play-by-post game and suddenly you're just outmatched by people who are better at this than you are. There is no... the learning curve is... Whew.
Yeah. Yeah, asymptotic. It's 100% asymptotic. And both of us have played in those kind of play-by-posts where there are people in the game who are making like 3-page long posts that are explaining how they're going about and subtly touching things in the room that all have subtle nuance and context to the things they're saying, and it can get way overwhelming way quickly.
So we're gonna
Really
pass
quickly.
we're gonna pass by the lands of the Crane. I mean, there's some cool stuff. The Eye of the Needle, right?
Yeah.
The blind river monk who will throw you into the river. There's great stuff. The Great Sea Spider is a really fascinating. Is there a spider down in the sea or not? We don't know. It could not be there, or it could come and eat you when you're asleep because you ate too much candy.
Yeah, don't eat candy. The sea spiders love the candy. It's that saltwater taffy. It gets to them every time.
But we're gonna move on to Masters of the Court, and where it talks about
the big value of the book comes in, right here.
Yes,
the Masters
exactly.
of the Court and Shadows of the Court are the two big,
So it talks about what the imperial blessings are and the favors that you can get, and
their philosophy of a favor returned, why the doji operate in the way that they do, favors for favors, and building up that kind of repertoire of favors.
There's
connections
on page 74.
Yeah,
they have actual dueling. These are the rules that you need to use when doing actual honorable duels that, you know, are... This is nowhere in the main book, and I don't know why this isn't there. But these are the rules you use for an Iijitsu duel.
Yeah. For a proper Iijitsu duel, like a formal Iijitsu duel.
And it says, speaking discourteously to one's opponent incurs a -5 points to the duel. Yeah. Which means your coma technique where you shout at the other person and they gain strife will get you minus points.
It will get me minus points, so I have to extend my point value by so much further. I would have to, and or just be content that I beat them, but I lost the duel. You know?
Yeah, it's like
I shamed you in combat.
They died. I still lost. Oh well.
Whatever. Yeah. So sad.
By the way, there's a doji bureaucrat school in this book that does a similar thing as the Akoma, where you gain strife. They give you strife.
Yeah.
Make a social roll, you get strife because of it.
Get strife. Yep.
And that makes it, an insanely good dueling school.
Yeah, only because of how they set up the duel, which I'm not 100% against the idea that making somebody so stressed in that moment will affect the outcome of the duel 100%. Like, that makes sense, realistically. But because they hinged, like, the majority of the duel, the weight of the duel, on the strife levels of people, and how powerful of a punch you can deliver if you can get that person up above their composure level, it just makes any ability that allows you to manipulate somebody's strife, or even just moderate your own. If you can just keep reducing your own strife over time, those people are going to be the best at dueling 100%.
Yep.
And the key to have some of that in their technique abilities and the techniques they get access to. But there are other schools in this game that just blow that out of the water. That can just immediately swing a duel 100%.
So the next part is Shadows of the Court, and this is where we start getting into spying. What
the Game of Letters. I love the Game of Letters. It's such an interesting idea.
I do like the Game of Letters, but they talk about, in this book, correspondence that uses ciphers and things like that, and that's very, very important. They say don't use your ciphers as much as you think you should. Don't use it all the time, because the more that's out there, the more opportunities people have to break it. Which, like, that's cool if you're like, a player and you're constantly sending out coded letters, like every time you send out a coded letter, like the chance that an enemy can break it goes up. And
because there's more
players should know that.
Opportunities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the game of letters says it's also encoded, and that no one else should know except for you and the recipient. But how would you and the recipient know
the code?
The code. It would, like, if it was a childhood friend, I could see that. But if you're just meeting for the first time at Winter Court and you want to send letters and stuff, how?
You would have had to meet up and like discuss this in some way, or done some kind of crazy encryption with using a terms that only they would know. So you still have to know so much about that opposing person to get so personal that they would be able to crack the code with their experiences.
Like, the game of letters needs to, I don't know. I like the fact that sometimes you, like the Scorpion would fold origami that if somebody tried to open the letter, it would tear, and so they would know that somebody read it. That sounds great. That's the way the game of letters is supposed to be. Or that you put out letters that you want people to read, right? Mm-hmm. You're like, I'm sending a correspondence to this person, but I'm making sure that everybody else is going to hear what this letter says, because I'm I'm delivering it in a way where everybody that passed by could glance at it and read it. And that's
you're subtweeting somebody. That's really what it is. You're subtweeting somebody.
But that's not in here.
Yeah, I think that's a great way, and that's how it was used in practice a lot of times when we were in those, forum-based games, the play-by-those games, were in like even older in-person games when we would have Winter Courts and stuff like that. This was a big way of getting information out, blowing somebody else's spot up and letting people know about all their business, and hanging them out to dry, or dragging them through the public square and letting everybody know their stuff. It was also an interesting way, because it's not just...
If you know somebody is a ninja, right, and you want to out them, you just write a letter to another person saying that this is in confidence, and I think this person has been doing these shenanigans, but I don't want anybody to know, and you just leave it out for everybody to read.
Yeah. And you don't even, the thing is, you don't even have to sign it necessarily.
No.
You can leave that unsigned and just let people speculate as to who knew what was going on and why they left it out and blah, blah, blah. Like, it creates such a fun environment. And if your table's really interested in that kind of thing, this could be a super fun exercise. And I also think you don't even need to use it in Winter Court. You can send messages while you're traveling around in the world and doing stuff outside of this. And because of how the postal system, quote unquote, works in Rokugan, anyone could probably look into that thing. So if you didn't seal it properly and left it to go through, you could probably see that information throughout the Empire as well, not just in a Winter Court setting.
Speaking of the postal service, the Deer Clan.
Yeah.
The Deer Clan is... So all of these books have a minor clan that they showcase during it. And the Deer Clan is the one for the Courts of Stone, and it is the first original clan for Red Canon. It didn't exist before Red Canon. I have strong feelings about the Deer Clan.
I do too. I have really strong feelings about the Deer Clan.
One of the reasons I made them villains in Shadow Empire is because of these feelings. But we can talk about them a little bit. Tarek, would you like to introduce the Deer Clan to us?
Okay, so yeah, the Deer Clan, they occupy an interesting place in the hierarchy of Rokugan, the like roles that everybody plays, right? But I think they basically took part of the Mia family that used to be a part of the canon, which was they were the matchmakers of the world. They tried to help bring people together. Them and the Otomo would manipulate things. They didn't
just take the matchmaking part of the Mia.
Yeah, they also took the
they're also messengers.
I was gonna say they took the courier service away from the Mia as well, because the Mia were also that portion. So they took a lot of the identity of the Mia away, and they gave it to the Deer Clan. And then they gave them this strange otherworldly ability to weave the threads of fate, using their special magic techniques. To make sure oh, if I get this woman and this guy and I weave their fates together, we'll create the perfect. They're the Bene Gesserit of Rokugan, basically. Doing bloodlines and eugenics and magic stuff to get people to do the things they want them to do
These
and set fate into motion.
This is the most powerful thing. This is like they can literally see the future and get people to come together to either thwart the future or embrace the future. The only thing that's holding them back from being the biggest agent of chaos and ruling Rokugan is this notion of they want balance.
And yeah, which is bullshit. I hate this clan so much. I love the idea of introducing new minor clans and advancing the lore. I hate the fact that they just pulled the Bene Gesserit, made them into a fucking minor clan, and then for some reason they haven't taken over the empire. Like, they are the most powerful entity in existence. Why are they still a minor clan? The only real reason I would imagine that they're a minor clan is because if they play their hand too heavily, all the other clans will like band together and just wipe them off the face of the earth. There's no other reason for them to exist besides the like contrivance.
The
like
entire reason the Mia were matchmakers was because not because they had some special ability that allowed them to like see the future and know people's bonds, but just because they were imperials, so they were impartial, so people could trust them more, and that they had the word of the emperor himself behind them. So if they put together a match, they were a match that the emperor wanted. And thus you were doing things in service of the empire to have these two people come together and wed.
Mm-hmm. And not only that, but it played even deeper into the idea that the whole point of the Mia and Otomo families was to sow chaos among the clans and to sow unity among the clans so that they can keep the clans always a little divided so that they don't ever rise up and try to thwart the emperor. That was their mandate, basically, their opportunity to like ensure the empire flowed peacefully and no one was going to try to overthrow the emperor, which made sense. Now, making that a minor clans arrangement makes zero sense in my mind.
Now the Mia clan, because I went back and I read in
Emerald Empire.
Emerald Empire what the Mia do now, and they're just cartographers. They give out the imperial favor, and they give out imperial edicts. They make sure that all of the lands know about the imperial edicts around.
Yeah, they're like town screamers or whatever they're called.
Criers, right. They're not trusted imperial messengers that won't look at your letter because they are part of like, it's like having like the post office because they're part of the government. They have to follow these strict requirements, but they're not that anymore. Now it's the Deer Clan that are the trusted messengers because
for no apparent
reasons.
They can manipulate fate and ruin your life if you don't trust them.
They also live in Ewok villages.
Yeah, they're insane. Like this clan, they went like someone was smoking some serious stuff before they dreamt up the idea of the Deer Clan. It is wild.
I think there's a way we can pull this clan. If there's a new edition of this game, there's a way we can pull this back a little. And hopefully they do that. But right now, they're one of the only minor clans that have two schools, a ninja school, a ninja / Yojimbo school. So basically they're like super spies, and a Shugenja that can basically know exactly your fate because they've seen your bonds.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's a wild combination of like, again, it just makes me wonder how have more clans not come together and been like, fuck this little minor clan, we're gonna ruin them. Like even the edict of the emperor saying like you can't attack the minor clans would get tossed out the window so fast if the clans thought, oh, these people are fucking with our stees here, they're trying to get up all in our business, we cannot have that. Like murder them? How has
Yep.
the Scorpion not shown up and been like, okay, we're going to, like, you guys work for us now. I don't care what you say or do. You're working for us, or we're gonna hunt down and murder all of you. You now
Right.
feed all of the information you get to us. 100%. Realistically, like
that literally that makes so much more sense. We can control everything through you guys. You're our information source. Yeah, why not?
Your information network. Yeah, that's what you do. That is your job.
Okay, moving on. Now we can go into the rules. Now we can go into new schools. Bayushi Death Dealer. Works on advantages and disadvantages. I mean, it's okay. The Spy Master is a fine, I get to do scheme actions. I can give myself strife to reroll dice. The Bureaucrat School, I'm an awesome duelist.
Yeah. Bureaucrat School is I'm gonna fuck shit up, and I'm a doji, so that makes total sense. Yeah.
The Akoma Shadow School is interesting. You can lose honor to reroll dice on any check.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's awesome.
I like it really, really well. I'd love to play one of these and like feel what it's like to play one of these myself. But Crystal played one of them in one of the older session. What was it? It was the Fields of Victory module.
Yeah, it was the module that came with Field of Victory. I forgot what it's called.
Yeah. Yeah, and that it seemed to be pretty effective for her. She seemed to be having a good time with it. So yeah, I think that's a pretty good one as well.
Mercenary Ninja.
Yeah. This one is interesting because it gives you the ability to like make persona, right? To like
Batman would have this school.
Like Batman would have this school, but it also feels like, well, any kind of superhero could technically have this school.
Yeah,
Batman,
right.
Typically. But this is actually really good for people who are doing the like colot thing as well. I think this like fits perfectly into the colot identity of like switching your identities every so often to try to keep people off your trail. This is like a colot master kind of training school, and also works really well for the Shishiro actor school. Like it's basically the old school Shishiro actor school from Black Canon, brought into the new one, but as a Ronin school.
Shiba Artisan School. If somebody sees you do art, you can remove strife from them.
Yeah, it's so it's what happens when everybody watches the movie Ghost, right? We're seeing her make the pot and then the hug, and then everybody's all happy.
People will want to use this during combat. 100% people, they'll be like, I quickly make an origami swan. Everybody look!
My swan! The only problem is that all the enemies now also got relaxed. They're like, oh, that's a nice swan. That's
no. You get to choose the characters.
Yeah, each chosen character. That's true. Yeah. You get to choose the ones that get to see. Look, you, all of you. Look at me. Stop fighting. Stop whatever you're doing and just look at me.
The Shiba Matchmaker School, you can use the Ties of Vines ritual to just basically, at any time, for any reason, see people's bonds.
Yeah.
The Spear Dancer School, everybody gets the Dazed Condition. Dazed Condition's very powerful.
Yeah. Especially in the middle of combat or like a duel or something, it can be really powerful.
The weirdest school, the Togashi Chronicler School, if you do a social check, you activate a Kiho. It's like, hey, I would love to give you this piece of pottery I made. You want to give me a piece of pottery? That's lovely. Super Saiyan mode.
Yeah. I was going to say, now you're lit on fire. Never take a gift from a Togashi chronicler. That's gonna fuck you over. 100%. I mean, the Dragon have some really out there schools. This is just another one of them that is fun. Okay, so the Yasuki Yojimbo school, which reminds me a lot of. Do you remember the old Yasuki Taskmaster school, where they were the ones who like whipped the Mujina?
No.
You don't remember that?
No, not at all.
You used to be able to have the Mujina. Okay, so the Yasuki Taskmasters were like they got to intimidate people with like I think it was like you got to intimidate people more easily, and you could use a whip to like increase the amount of intimidation you did. But that also was like your defense. So like if you rolled an active defense, you could roll your intimidation instead, and somebody wouldn't be able to hit you because of that. It was like a really interesting little little school in like 3.5. And they were like supposedly they were like the Ojimbo of the Yaski and a bunch of different like political people in the Crab Clan. But their school explicitly said that they had started by being the people in the mines with the Mujina in Crablands, and their technique was developed as being taskmasters over those like criminals and Mujina who would mine for them.
Interesting.
And they were a courtier school. They were fascinating, but it kind of reminds me of these guys. Like this is the newer version of what they were. And instead of like guarding yourself that way, you guard somebody else.
Cool.
I wish they gave him the ability to use a whip, though. That would be cool.
New advantages and disadvantages. I think all of these are fairly good.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with any of them. I like affect harmlessness is one of my favorite advantages.
You took it.
Period. Well, yeah, well connected is also a really interesting one, especially if you're doing a city-based campaign. I really like that well connected advantage. Decorum, local flair for things. Pot stir is such an amazing advantage.
Pot stir, yes.
Pot stir is so funny. I love it. I love that kind of stuff. Overconfidence, lackluster. Lackluster is a brutal disadvantage. You're just not that good. Unsavory past is also really interesting. Isolation, web of lies. Like a lot of the advantages, disadvantages they added to this one have a lot of flavor to them that can really make a character feel multidimensional.
They're really good. They're
like,
really good. Yeah. We're going to move past the samurai heritages. New gear and items. There's a lot of good stuff for... there's some really great courier stuff here. And then it goes into shinobi stuff, and now we're in shinobi land forever.
Yeah. The rest of it is shinobi stuff. And the shinobi stuff is good. Don't get me wrong.
What are they going to do? What are they going to do when they release the Scorpion book and they don't have anything to put in it because they put it all here?
I'm sure they're going to put in a bunch of what I think is they're going to expand poisons a ton. They're going to expand cooking a bunch. They're going to have like interesting clothing options and like fashion. And I don't know. I imagine they're going to go lean into the other aspects of the Scorpion, maybe warding magic and like shadow magic, shadow brands. They might go into that kind of stuff instead of just basic shinobi stuff. Because the shinobis are so undersupported throughout most of the books. This was the book that really made it viable to play a shinobi and not just be shoehorned into like one or two things.
I guess they wanted it early so people could play them and be viable. So they made an early shinobi book, but still, like, it doesn't feel right to have all this stuff here. There should be there should be more things in the way of gifts and what you could give as a gift and what, like, because they say, oh, this is the conventions of gift giving and this is why a gift might be important or might be a good gift. But they don't have like a list of things that you might want to give as a gift.
That are meaningful like traditional.
Right?
That would have been good here.
So what you're going to be doing is and you'll be giving a lot of fans, a lot of tea sets, a lot of makeup kits. Like, that's just what's going to be happening.
Like Kamari balls, yeah.
Yeah.
You're going to be doing a lot of the basic stuff. The other thing is, like, you're supposed to be able to, like, use techniques to find out what people desire and then try to MacGuffin or like, work your way into getting that, like, sourcing that for a person to get really ingratiated with somebody. So there's like ways that you can do that without, but it just puts more effort on the GM and the
it does.
player to like really go through that.
It really does. And there's a lot for a game master to already worry about. So please just add a bunch of nonsense trinkets and things that can be used as gifts that we can then like add on top of.
Yeah,
like
give us rarities of kimonos too. Like give us what like higher quality kimono that you court All this stuff would be interesting to add a
Crystal
layer of.
figurine, jade figurine, like
Mhm.
write it all down, and then like we'll fill in the gaps from there. We can say what the crystal figurine is of. That's fine. But
Yeah.
write it down, crystal figurine, because in the middle of a game, I'm not gonna be able to think of crystal figurine again.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Gone.
out of my brain now.
Immediately gone. Yeah. Even if I try to keep it there, it's going to be gone. Let's go to techniques. There's a
Techniques.
lot of interesting techniques that were added into this uh, uh, like supplement. Um, the pole fighting techniques are like really good. Those two at the beginning, the pole
Mm-hmm.
vault to get further ahead, and then to the trip the leg technique is just so like just constantly keep people on their back and keep stabbing them. It's great, like super powerful, super effective techniques. Also, the only way you can use the like a full arm at that point at range 1, because otherwise you're always stuck at
Range
using it at
two.
range
Yep.
2. This means you could step in a little closer, trip somebody down, and start stabbing them. Step back, start stabbing them again. It's interesting. I like
This
their
technique reminds me. There was a game, if you remember, our mutual friend whose name starts with a K and decided to duel one of my characters, and I consistently threw them down on the ground. And it was a
yeah.
stalemate because they couldn't attack me because they constantly had to get up, and I would just throw them back on the ground again. And it was and she was super frustrated about it. And I just looked at her like, this was the rules.
Yeah. Sorry, this is how it works. Yeah, I remember that. That was a humbling moment, I think, for somebody. Um, lessons in humility.
The rest are all.
Yeah, and they're interesting ninjutsu.
Yeah.
They're not super powerful, most of them,
Nope.
but they are very interesting. They have a lot of opportunities to be used in different situations. They're not easily like acquired though, unless you're playing a full shinobi who gets access to take whatever um, ninjutsu you want. A lot of these,
Most ninjutsu
later
schools,
on,
if you notice, most ninjutsu schools don't say you get ninjutsu. They say you
no,
get these ninjutsu at these
exactly.
ranks.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of them they're very good. A lot of them are very good. They'll do something really well. Like silent elimination is really good. For if you're wanting to play that kind of assassin character, you're not going to get access to this easily though. You're going to have to be in a school that allows you to get those ninjutsus that you want, and that takes some foresight. So if you're playing a ninja, you really want to be aware of the things that you can and can't get ahead of time.
Let's move on. I mean, we can talk about the shuji. The shuji are very courtly focused for the most part.
Yeah. Same thing with the rituals. The rituals are court focused entirely.
So, but they're all right. They're pretty good. So let's go to games of discourse. And this is where it's trying to teach you how to run a court scene here.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's nothing in here that isn't like, this is kind of stuff I kind of feel could be intuitive to a lot of people, but I mean, it's good to have it written out nonetheless.
Yeah, and I will point to the first 3 paragraphs under the running a winter court game. Politics, intrigue, and player safety. You want to make sure that you communicate those things ahead of time. Intrigue heavy games, how to run them is also interesting. I wish that was actually larger and filled with more information, more good information to help somebody come up with their own political and intrigue heavy games. And then knowing your players, you have to realize that if you're going to be doing one of these social narrative focused games that are heavily political, heavily intrigue focused, you really have to know your players and their characters, not just the character sheet, the player itself, how they play, how they think, what they want, what they're interested in, and their characters and what those characters think, what the characters have skills in, or,
a lot of that stuff there at the end where it talks about the court sheet has a whole thing of how to set up a court game, and we'll get there. But then it has this thing about romance and intimacy. I wish there were rules here and not
Yeah.
just, you know, uh, here's how we think it kind of should go. Um,
Mhm.
you know?
Considering romance is such a big part of this aesthetic and the game of Elphaba in total, the lore and the history is rife with this. It's a very glorious thing in the middle of
So
courts to have these romances. Um, yeah, I would think they'd want to put more
there's a
into that.
balance to be had here between I roll some dice and now this
And
person is,
have a romance.
and have a
Yeah,
romance, and
I have
having a
diplomacied
good,
my way into her heart.
and
Yeah,
having a good role play scene. But then, there's the awkwardness of, hey, Tarek, you're my best friend. Let's role play a romance together.
yeah. Let's role play making out for 5 minutes on stream. Just because this is let's do this. Let's get into it. I mean, it depends,
Oh my
right? Some
god.
people are way
You
more
don't
comfortable
even
with
know.
this than
Just
others.
just describing that fills me with anxiety.
Like I said, so some people are gonna be way more like, I'm not gonna say into it, but like they're gonna roll with those punches a lot easier and have an easier time exploring those sentiments. And other people are going to be a lot more reserved about it and not want to have to get into the nitty gritties, and that's fine. That comes back to know your players, know, and if you're the GM and you're the one who's not super comfortable, then there should be a way that you can navigate this without having to narrate out all the nitty gritty details, and instead, take a step back, do some rolls and some light role play, and try to move it forward in another meaningful way. There's
Oh,
always a path forward with this. You just have to communicate through it.
failure and momentum. I want to take a second to talk about this area right here where it talks about, hey, if your characters fail, try and keep the momentum moving even though they failed, or turn that failure into an opportunity, that both times that push the plot forward. And I just want to say, like, and this version of L5R does this a lot, where they'll look at other games and what they're doing and how, these concepts are, and then kind of tack it in with no thought. No, because like in other games, when you fail, then they want you to add momentum to it. They just don't say, why don't you just do that, game master? They have like a chart that shows you, or some rules that help you on your way to make that happen. And just come out there and say that, I mean, it's good that it's said so game masters can think about doing that, but how to execute that's an entire thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. That is an entire layer of difficulty that you've added without really imagining that you're adding a lot of intensity. Because that
It's
like there's so many directions that can go. There's so much, like, also like failing in those
hey,
situations can
Tarek,
really shut a player down.
you know what would make your life better? If you
Hmm.
built a car.
Yeah.
You should just do that.
Yeah.
Just
You
build
don't need
the
to worry about
car.
how to do it. Just do it.
Just do
Yeah,
it.
just start working on it. You'll get there. All right. I mean, and like I said, a point that I wanted to make was like, failure for some people feels like an end point, right? It feels like a shutdown moment, and then they players will withdraw from that moment, and not engage further, or like be too busy in their own head about it and not get back into the meat of it. So, like, again, know your players, try to figure out ways to help break that down for them if you can, and if it's not an easy thing to keep building on, don't let it bog down the rest of your game. Like,
Yeah. It
keep
like I
it,
said,
keep it moving.
it's not bad advice. It's just not very well
Organized. Yeah.
yeah, you gotta, you just can't give that to somebody and say do it.
Yeah. Good job. You got this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Making Shinobi PCs and doing Shinobi games.
Yeah.
This is fine. Nothing here that's bad or weird. The biggest thing, my biggest problem with Shinobi PCs, and and nothing in here alleviates this problem, is that you're all ostensibly from different clans with different clan secrets, and they don't want you to know that they're shinobi within their clan or spies or whatnot. And now you're all together and you're all shinobi from different clans, and you're not gonna. How do you. Is everybody having their own little thing by themselves?
Yeah, their own little moments. So yeah, this is a hard thing to I mean, and even just like having a multi-party, a multi-clan party, can also bring up these issues, regardless of whether you're a shinobi or not. But even just having, so you have two.
It's way harder with shinobi.
Happens, right? It is way harder with shinobi, and it's even harder when you have one shinobi in the group and a bunch of other people who are like ostensibly honorable, good people. If they find out about the shinobi, it's technically their responsibility to be like, "Oh, you're a fucking ninja. All the things you're doing is forbidden in the Empire. We should say something or like kill you." And so you have to have this kind of understanding that probably isn't the best way to handle this situation.
And then when the shinobi stuff happens, that one player gets like all of the spotlight for that area of the stuff.
One scene, yeah. And if you have a whole group of people, obviously you can't have a whole group of people playing the same shinobi class or from the same, because most clans only have one at best. So and
that's gonna be stale.
And that's gonna get stale. So if you have a bunch of people from a different clans with different shinobi backgrounds, unless they're all part of like the Shinobi Go group, like this is the Justice League of Shinobi, and we're gonna be going around solving shinobi problems, like you're gonna have this issue, and you're gonna have to have a like social contract ahead of time of like this, or some kind of contrivance in the plot. It's like, this is why y'all are all together. This is why you function together, and we're not breaking off into 5 different people doing 5 different things every single game session, because that's just going to eat up all of the time.
There are ways to do it. I'm not saying that it's impossible and it shouldn't be done. I'm saying that the contrivances are going to be super contrived. There's going to be like, the Emperor has grabbed specific people from different clans and has made you swear an oath that all of your ninja stuff will never be revealed to anyone but him, even your own clan daimyo. And thus everybody can do ninja stuff in front of each other and reveal their secret clan techniques, and you can never tell your clan.
So the cool way of doing this, in my opinion, is lean on history, right? The Iga ninjas from the Tokugawa era work together to be the emperor or the shogun's secret police force,
right? So you're like one of those, maybe.
Yeah, or so maybe like the Emerald Magistrate or the Emerald Champion comes and forms a group, and you're part of that group now. You're part of the secret police. Or maybe one of the clan champions, a group of the clan champions have come together to form a Gozoku, and now all of you guys are going to go out and fuck with the people who aren't a part of the Gozoku to try to get information on whatever. So there's some kind of contrivance you're going to have to pull in to make this work, but it can be done. It's just going to take some work.
Okay, a bunch of new titles. That's fine and well.
Yeah, the titles are interesting. They need more. Like, yeah, that's good.
Spending opportunity in Winter Court games. You need a lot of opportunity to do anything with these.
And also there is, again, the same problem with opportunity we've harped on over and over again. There's so many things and so many different areas where opportunity become important that keeping track of it all is just going to bog down the game.
And a lot of these, like, I looked at some of these opportunities here, and I'm like, why aren't these just Shuji?
Yeah, exactly my thought. Why weren't a lot of these just made into Shuji that you get access to as a courtier, right? Or as somebody courtly tangential from the court? Because they would be way better placed as Shuji.
Yeah, exactly.
100%. These could have been techniques added to the book, and that would have made way more sense.
So let's talk about bonds, the new rule that showcased. This is the new rule for this book, and it's huge. And I love bonds, and I hate the special abilities for bonds.
Yeah, I love bonds in the idea that it should be a big part of your characters and your campaign to have people bonded to certain other people, having organizations and allies that are a part of they're attached to factions, their group, they're within.
This should have been part of the original book, in my opinion.
I agree 100%. The bond abilities are what start to break down how this functions and makes it a lot stranger. They are
as powerful as school techniques.
Yeah, some of them are. Yeah, some of them are completely useless most of the time. Some of them are going to be
Well,
really,
so
really
are school
powerful.
techniques in
Yeah,
this version.
exactly. It's true. Uh,
But as you
so
get
yeah,
first off, you can get more ranks in it, but getting higher ranks does not follow any of the other XP conventions. It's just like this one costs 3, this one 4, this one 6. It's just willy nilly.
yeah,
And
both people have to agree to the expense. You
yes,
cannot raise it with somebody if you don't have both of y'all spending that XP, which is an XP sink that a lot of people don't want to buy into, unless it's a really good ability, in which case you're going to buy into it all the time.
and the thing is each one of the abilities as you go up in rank are just kind of broken.
Yeah.
You get to always have skilled assistance on a check in which the character that you're bonded with is skilled. So you get +1 skill at rank 2 to every
Yeah.
skill that they have. You get
Yep.
that assistance. Rank 3, you get to play your NPC that you're bonded with. Rank 4 is, hey, you get to use their skill or ring to do the check. And it stacks with the assistance as well. And then
That's the comrade one, right? Is that comrade?
no, that's just rank 4 in any of them.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
And then rank 5 is if they spend a void point, you get a void point. If you spend a void point, they get a void point.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
These are just broken.
Yeah, you're talking about the bonds table. I thought you were talking about a specific bond, but no, yeah, the bond
No.
table shows every bond has these innate abilities, and if they're with an NPC, you can kind of manage that by making the NPC not as effective at some of this stuff or not as powerful. But if they're bonded with a PC, this can become extraordinarily broken because now you have the ability to draw on all of their skills as well as all of your skills, and that can just be ridiculous.
With a +1 because you always have that assistance, and yeah, it's broke. It's bonds are broken.
Yeah,
which is a
really
weird
are.
thing to say.
Yeah. We've broken all the bonds.
We broke the bonds.
Yeah. They can be really broken. The core aspect of bonds makes them even more so. And like I said, leveling up the bonds is going to require a lot of XP expenditure,
Yes.
which I get why they made them more expensive to go through, because it's almost like getting a new title or something ability.
Like a new title ability.
Each time. Yeah.
But it costs way less than a title ability.
It does, and it gets better over time, more improved. Which could be interesting if you reworked the balancing and scaling of all of this stuff into a different factor. But this is the only thing, in my opinion, that actually follows the older technique structure of L5R.
Yeah.
Where it gets better every time you rank up in it.
So, I like the idea of bonds. I want there to be bonds, and I want them to be meaningful, as in you get a cool ability because of your bond. I think all of that is good. I just think that it, compared to everything else in this game, this is really powerful.
Yeah.
Now, if everything else in this game was also as powerful as this, I'd be like, okay, fine, whatever.
Yeah. Everybody has some wild abilities and techniques, and this is something that's optional. But it really isn't, because it helps to enhance the flavor of how you interact with the world around you to have these bonds in there. So it's almost necessary to have, but you're reticent to put them in as much because of how powerful they are.
It really enhances the game.
It really does.
It really does. Assembling a court in 7 steps. So this is, like you said, you wish they expanded that. They want you to basically, there's a court sheet that has a bunch of cards on it with different NPCs, and you give out those NPCs to people, and they'll write in advantages and disadvantages and stuff, and then trade the cards, and the next person will write in the next thing, and you can make like movers and shakers, and it's kind of like randomly rolling a court scene.
Yeah.
It's basically to flesh out things. You'll make the big stuff, the big plot and things, but you need a lot of like other fill-in characters, and this is how you can make those fill-in characters, which I'm fine with.
Yeah. It doesn't, the thing that I have a problem with this is that it doesn't really explain much about the NPC creation process, right? Or what is reasonable in terms of NPC creation in a sense.
Well, with these NPCs, you're not filling out their rings. You're not filling out their skills. If you look at the sheet,
I know, yeah,
it's
but
all.
they could have added that into here for the GM specifically to be able to fill out that information. This would be another great place to fill out. Here's how you make humanoid samurai NPCs, and here's what those things mean and why they're important to have, and break it down even more. This would be the perfect place for it, but they didn't do that.
Here's the thing: in the main book, there's opportunities that tell you what an NPC's ninjo is or giri, and those things are found nowhere on regular NPC sheets. They're only found on this court sheet.
Yeah.
So when you're a new game master and someone looks at you and says, I want to spend 2 opportunity to know that person's ninja, and the game master goes, hold on a second. Yeah, it doesn't say.
Yeah, you have to do it on the fly. You have to fly by the seat of your pants with a lot of the NPCs.
But this helps you fill it out. This is like your secondary NPC sheet that fills in all of the things that were supposed to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And then
that would work really well if they were combined into a singular asset where you had the NPC information as well as this NPC court sheet to fill out all of the details and make them. Otherwise, you're just making a bunch of characters by hand, and that won't even work.
We're going to make some videos where we're going to make a new edition of L5R. And one of the things we're going to do is we're going to be pulling apart these NPCs and making good NPCs.
Yeah.
But one of the things I like about this court sheet is prior offenses by the NPCs. If the sheet is filled up with prior offenses, then their objective stops being what their objective used to be and becomes fuck with the PCs.
Yeah, those guys who were fucking with me. Yeah, get revenge.
It's good. It's good. Also, there's a section about developing NPCs' motivations through needs. This can be done for PCs too. I don't see why, but it basically goes through the hierarchy of needs, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and L5Rifies it.
My favorite part of this book might have been a lot of the running court rules and the expansions on that is really good. I actually really liked the cultural parts of it where they talk about like the culture and etiquette of this in the Tenets of Bushido, something we didn't actually cover. The Tenets of Bushido courtesy helps to kind of give you a little bit more information on what those breaches of courtesy are, how to handle emotional outbursts, gossip and rumors, what like constitutes a trifling breach of etiquette, a small breach of etiquette, that kind of thing. I think that having more of these fleshed out would be awesome. I really love the idea they had here. Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. The idea that you can flesh all of these pieces out. They're not all done though. There's one for each book. They haven't gotten to every one of them because there's not enough books out there yet. But this is a great idea, and it helps to flesh out not only honor and glory, but I feel like honor, glory, and status should have a section in each book that really enhances how those things work and inform on like what the value is there. Because people who are new to L5R don't have that conceptualization ready, and so having this in an easily accessible place would help them to contextualize their self around the honor system of Bushido and what is kind of expected of them.
My favorite part, I'm always like, because they're like.
Let me also say I really like the items area in this book too. I really did like the expansion of the items.
I wish the items were different.
I know. I wish the items were different, but it felt like a great expansion because there's not a lot of items already, and every time they add more items, they make the world feel a lot more alive.
So,
and that's a good addition.
Being this was an early book that came out. There's a lot of good stuff. They haven't like used up all of their good ideas, and you can see that
creative ideas. Yeah.
So I really want to say bonds is my favorite part of the book because besides like the abilities that it gives. Like,
there's a small fatal flaw there.
That fatal flaw just brings it down. But like the concept, the idea, the the their execution was almost there.
Yeah, I agree.
So that's what I'm going to say. It's bonds.
I don't disagree with
like
that at all. Yeah, bonds are really
it
good.
can be it can be just a little better, and then it'll be perfect with just a little elbow grease. All right, let us put this on the chart here. Our chart is up to show where we should put this Courts of Stone book. I know we're not leaving this one in the store.
Definitely not.
Is this something that the player needs?
So some people would probably disagree with me on this take, but I think it is absolutely something the player needs.
Yeah. So where does it go?
I think so.
Do we put this? Is this shelf worthy or is this a PDF?
I think for most people this can just be a PDF.
You think so?
I think the GM 100% will want this as a book on their shelf because it's so valuable.
Okay, so narrator shelf.
Narrator shelf. I think
player
also
player PDF.
I think also I would say players. I would like players to own this book because it has so much value and so much lore and like context to the world. But I think a player would probably get away with just having this as a PDF and be perfectly fine.
Okay. So I'm going to put it at narrator shelf, and then player, and then that includes everything under it. So player, PDF, and everything like that. So yeah, okay. So it's going on the shelf if you're a narrator. If you're a player, you can get away with using it as a PDF. You don't absolutely necessarily need to have this in your player repertoire. You can just like reference it in your PDF.
Yeah. The thing that makes it almost like necessary for everybody on the shelf is the shinobi rules. The fact that the shinobi rules are almost entirely contained within this book.
If you're a shinobi, buy it.
Yeah, if you're a shinobi, buy it. Own the book as a physical book. But if you're anybody else, you can probably get away with just reading it, and that would be great.
And if you're like, well, what about bonds? The players need to know about bonds. Buy Path of Waves. Put that on your shelf. Because bonds are repeated.
100%.
Bonds are repeated and expanded upon in Path of Waves. Come back next week. Not next week, in 2 weeks, right? In 2 weeks, we'll be back.
Yeah. In 2 weeks, we'll be back. I'm going to be on next week.
Okay. In 2 weeks, we will be back and we'll be reviewing something else, and we'll see you then. So, from Tarek and myself, my name is Corey. Go roll some dice.